In the summer of 1483, two boys walked through the gates of the Tower of London. One of them was the King of England. He was 12 years old. His brother was 9. They were brought there for safekeeping, for protection. That's what they were told. They were never seen again. No bodies, no trial, no confession that anyone could trust. Just silence. Over 500 years of silence. This is the story of the princes in the Tower, and it is England's greatest unsolved murder. This is the Fallen Kingdom, where we uncover the unsolved murders, buried scandals, and forgotten figures of the medieval world. Every week we dig up a new story that history tried to hide. If that sounds like your kind of thing, hit subscribe and help us grow this channel. Now, let's get into it. To understand why two children vanished, you need to understand the family they were born into. Their father was King Edward IV, a warrior who'd seized the throne during the Wars of the Roses. He'd married a woman called Elizabeth Woodville in secret. She was beautiful, ambitious, and wildly unpopular with the old nobility. Together they had two sons, Edward and Richard. But by April 1483, the king was dead. He was only 40. The crown now belonged to his eldest son, Edward V, 12 years old, waiting at Ludlow Castle, hundreds of miles from London, with no idea his father was already gone. His younger brother Richard was just 9, still at home with their mother. And standing in the wings was their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, the dead king's brother, the man appointed Lord Protector, the man who would become Richard III. Now here's the thing about the Tower of London. It wasn't just a prison, it was a royal palace. Kings traditionally stayed there before their coronations. So when young Edward was brought to the Tower, it didn't raise any alarms. Not yet. His brother Richard joined him shortly after. Their mother had been reluctant to let him go. She'd taken sanctuary at Westminster Abbey, terrified of what was happening. But she was persuaded. The Archbishop himself came to collect the boy. The brothers would be together. They'd be safe. For a few weeks, people reported seeing the two boys in the Tower grounds, shooting arrows in the gardens, glimpsed through windows. An Italian visitor named Dominic Mancini noted that young Edward was seen less and less, and that the boys seemed to sense what was coming. Mancini wrote that Edward was like a victim preparing for sacrifice. And then, the sightings stopped. The boys were moved deeper into the Tower. Their servants were dismissed. Their doctor was sent away. And somewhere in the late summer of 1483, they simply vanished from the historical record. No announcement, no funeral, no explanation. Meanwhile, their uncle made his move. He declared both boys illegitimate, claiming their father's marriage had been invalid all along. Parliament agreed, and on the 6th of July 1483, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, was crowned King Richard III. The boys who should have been kings were now officially nobody, and nobody, it seemed, was asking where they'd gone. But across the Channel, in France, people were already whispering. The princes had been murdered, and the rumors pointed straight at their uncle. So who did it? 5 centuries of debate have produced 3 serious suspects. Let's walk through each of them. Suspect 1. Richard III. The obvious answer. Richard had the most to gain. He'd already taken the throne, but as long as those boys drew breath, they were a threat. Any discontented noble could rally behind them, declare the illegitimacy ruling void, and put young Edward back on the throne. And in fact, that's exactly what people tried to do. There was a rescue plot in the summer of 1483 before the boys disappeared. But here's what really damns Richard. When the rumors spread across Europe that the princes were dead, he never once produced them to prove they were alive. If they were safe and well in the Tower, why not just show them? Parade them through London, let people see them. He didn't. His silence is the strongest evidence against him. Suspect 2, the Duke of Buckingham. Henry Stafford, the Duke of Buckingham, was Richard's closest ally, the man who helped him seize the throne. And he held one position that matters enormously in this story: Constable of England. That title almost certainly gave him direct access to prisoners in the Tower. And Buckingham had his own motive. He was descended from Edward III. He had royal blood. Some historians believe he killed the boys not for Richard, but to clear the path for himself. Here's the detail that makes Buckingham hard to dismiss. Within 6 months of the boys disappearing, he turned against Richard and launched a rebellion for the throne. 6 months. From loyal kingmaker to open rival. Something changed between them, and the most logical explanation is that it had something to do with those boys. The rebellion failed. Buckingham was captured and beheaded. Whatever he knew, he took it with him. Suspect 3. Margaret Beaufort. Now this is the suspect that makes people uncomfortable. Margaret Beaufort was the mother of Henry Tudor, the man who would eventually defeat Richard at the Battle of Bosworth and become Henry VII. Margaret was relentless, brilliant, and completely devoted to putting her son on the throne. But the princes stood in the way. Even if Richard was overthrown, those boys had a stronger claim to the crown than Henry did. As long as they were alive, Henry Tudor would never be king. The theory goes like this. Margaret had the boys quietly removed, then allowed the blame to fall on Richard. With the princes gone and Richard's reputation destroyed, the path to the throne was clear for her son. And here's what makes this theory sting. When Henry Tudor finally took the throne, he never launched an investigation into the princes' deaths. He never charged Richard posthumously. He never even mentioned them. For a king who built his entire legitimacy on overthrowing a tyrant, that silence is very loud. Nearly 200 years after the boys disappeared, workmen demolishing a staircase at the Tower made a grim discovery. Buried about 10 feet underground, inside a wooden chest, they found the skeletons of 2 children. An eyewitness described scraps of velvet clinging to the bones. In medieval England, only royals could wear velvet. King Charles II ordered them reburied in Westminster Abbey, in a marble urn designed by Christopher Wren himself. They're still there today. A brief examination in 1933 suggested the remains belonged to 2 children aged roughly 10 and 12. But the methods were crude, the conclusions disputed, and no DNA analysis was attempted. Here's the thing that haunts historians. Modern DNA testing could almost certainly settle this. Scientists have already identified a living descendant with the right maternal DNA line to make a comparison. But the Church of England and Westminster Abbey have refused to allow the urn to be opened. The answer to England's oldest cold case might literally be sitting in a marble box, and no one is allowed to look. And then there's this. In recent years, a gold chain that almost certainly belonged to young Edward V surfaced, found in the possession of a family linked to Sir James Tyrrell, the man who allegedly confessed under torture to murdering the princes on Richard's orders. A dead man's confession extracted under torture, and now a piece of jewelry connecting him to the victim. It's not proof, but it's the closest thing to physical evidence this case has ever produced. So where does that leave us? Here's what we know for certain. 2 boys entered the Tower of London in the summer of 1483. They were seen alive for a few weeks, then they disappeared. No bodies were produced, no death was announced, no one was ever charged. And the man who was supposed to protect them took their crown instead. Here's what we don't know. When exactly they died, if they died at all, how it happened, who gave the order, or even whether the bones in Westminster Abbey belong to them. Richard III has carried the blame for 5 centuries. History and Shakespeare have made sure of that. But history is written by the winners, and the winners, in this case, were the Tudors. Henry VII had every reason to paint Richard as a child-killing monster, and Thomas More, who wrote the most famous account of the murders, was a Tudor loyalist writing decades after the fact, putting detailed conversations into people's mouths that he couldn't possibly have witnessed. The most chilling thing about this story isn't that 2 children were probably murdered. It's that someone, somewhere, knew exactly what happened, and that knowledge died with them. 500 years later, we're still standing outside the tower, looking up at that window, asking the same question. What happened to those boys? If this story kept you watching, you're going to want to see what we dig up next. This is The Fallen Kingdom, and every century has its secrets. Pick your suspect, Richard, Buckingham or Margaret Beaufort, and drop it in the comments. We read every single one. Smash the like button and hit subscribe so you're here when the next case drops.